3:75, 8 o'clock, morning. I love him. 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 Kyle took me out last night. I lied to Voti about whom I was with and where I was. Kyle stepped up on his toes and softly kissed my cheek and said he loved me. He held tightly to my hand, and I gripped back even harder. I looked into his beautiful brown eyes and said that I loved him too. He has such beautiful brown eyes, like chocolates. His dark brunette hair is so soft. I leaned over ever so slightly and kissed the boy's delicious lips. He turned very flushed, which, even in night's light, was obvious against his fair skin. I see Kyle as an object to obtain. I want him and feel wrong for this. I also want him to want me and love me. I now am left with a desire that burns as strong as that of my Voti's passion. I want him. 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 8:75, 8 o'clock, night. Kyle tells me he has a fiancée, but that he would leave her without any hesitation should I only ask. It was an arranged marriage after all, so he has no true feelings for her. He loves me. He has said so himself. I asked him to do just that, by the way. I am not the other woman, so it is only right that he chooses me over her. I tried to get him to strum me, but he is just so naive and nervous. He's not ready yet. I am filled with such passion, my pot's going awry with my licorice. I feel as though I could burst at any moment. But I will not force him out of his comfort zone. I know how horrid that can be in the beginning. I want him to fully give himself to me when the time finally arrives. Now, that will be the most preferred possibility for how things can happen. 12:20:75, 10 o'clock night. Voti is always such a stickler about his rules. If English guests are present, we must speak only in English. And there are always English guests present, whether it be his normal visitors or the rare occurrence of common and polite society. At the very least, he cries this of everyone, even his bilingual colleagues. We had a dinner party, stuffed shirts and gossips, all the like. These people were a mix of the aforementioned, so of course, everyone in your places, it's time to put on a show. Essentially, as I normally do, tonight I kept switching between languages. Voti doesn't want me speaking crudely to those who visit, so I say it in a language they don't understand. I am unsure if he was more cross with what I was saying, or that I was saying it in another language. He did seem taken aback by my words of criticism towards his foolish and blundering audience. But he only made it out for speaking German at the dinner table. He shall surely make an example of me tonight. Ah, well. 12:21:75, 4 o'clock morning. As I suspected, Voti punished me for my outburst last night. Whilst I was in bed after I finished my journal and performed onanism to Kyle to help me sleep, he came to my room, followed by a guest or two, dragging me from my sheets with a mighty pull. I was on my knees and so startled and groggy, unsure if I was still dreaming or awake at the moment.
So, Heidi,
Vati started saying in a peeved voice.
You want to tell these good men what it was that you said to them at dinner?
I told him to fuck off in German, but then that only caused Vati to yank me to my feet.
Fine then, have it your way. Jedediah?
He motioned to the big fella, and the ginger oaf handed my Vati what appeared to be pliers. As he did this, he said with a smile in his voice,
"Here you are, Count."
I was roughly grabbed by my jaw, forcing me to open my mouth up with the pressure he applied around my chin.
One more time, Heidi. You want to translate for yourself and then apologize for your disrespect?
I glared around the room in my contempt as I cried out, I said you swine were no better than a pig on the table. But I do not feel any sort of repentance for that, so you shall receive no apology. Suddenly, the metal tool in my Vati's hand was forced past my lips, and I felt it grip one of the teeth in the back of my mouth.
And what about breaking my rules?
I kicked myself from him and fell back onto my bed. Your rules can find a hefty cock and sit on it. I saw him stare back at his companions and tilt his head in a gesturing way.
"I'll hold her back,"
Jedediah said as he came up from behind me and pulled my arms back whilst forcing my jaw open again.
"Want to try that again, Heidi?"
Get off me, you fucking prick! I tried to squirm out of his grasp, but despite my height on him, I hadn't the strength of my weak knees from my previous acts.
Heidi?
Vati once more began.
If you will not allow an apology to escape from your mouth, I shall force one.
He put the pliers back in, and the clamp came around my molar again, but with serious business this time. I tried to shake my head as I stood back with my pleading eyes. However, that didn't stop Vati, and I experienced the grueling feeling of having my tooth robbed from my jaw. I cried out, but my screams were halted as I nearly choked on the blood that quickly leaked into my throat. I was weeping, but he went and prepared himself for seconds. No. The metal was already back inside as Vati asked again.
Something else you want to say?
I cried out half-mindedly.
English, Heidi.
With another sharp pull, he extracted one more tooth. I less of screamed and more of grunted this time around. My arms broke free from Jedediah, and I reached for Vati's waistcoat. Speaking was hard, with the warm and red liquid filling my orifices, but I still screamed. I'm sorry.
Are you going to speak English from now on and follow my rules?
I'm sorry. It won't happen again. I'm sorry. I'll be good. I'm sorry. I'll follow the rules. I'm sorry. He grabbed my hair and whirled me around, pressing my backside up against his front as he held my chin with his free hand, forcing me to look into the eyes of the man that was once behind me.
What do you think, Baron Fellfall? Does she seem sorry enough to you?
I don't know, Count.
The lecher replied with a coy voice.
She hasn't apologized to me directly. I think she's only sorry because she's lost her teeth.
No, I pitifully cried. I'm sorry for what I said. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. How many times did I say sorry? I lost count so fast, but it felt like I said it nearly after every other sentence. Please forgive me, Baron. Vati let me go from his tight grasp, and I fell to my knees and reached for Jedediah's breeches, partially to pull myself up as I was shaken by shock, and also to imply that I would do whatever it took to earn his forgiveness.
You're always so much prettier when you're on your knees and begging, Heidi.
The man put his big and sweaty palms on my loose hair and patted my head like I was a little girl being rewarded.
But I think I'd like you to prove just how sorry you are.
I have an idea.
Vati said from behind me, grabbing a hold of my dominant hand and pulling it up to place the bloody pliers in my palm.
Go on, Heidi. Show him how much you want his forgiveness.
I looked at the bloody tools and felt my jaw sting from the memory that they had just caused it. I knew I didn't want to experience that again, but I knew I had no other choice. Go numb, Heidi. I put the item in my mouth and found a molar on the back of my untouched side and tried to yank it out. I hadn't applied enough strength, so I merely loosened it severely and knocked the inside of my mouth. I accidentally dropped the pliers in my sudden pain and collapsed a hand around my mouth.
How disappointing,
Jedediah said as he reached for my steel companion on the floor. I quickly snatched it away fast as I cried out. No, I can do it. I made my attempt again and instead pulled the tooth out rather slowly from my gum. It was practically worse than the quick pulls, but was one of the only ways I could be successful in my endeavor. The man in front of me was chuckling at my actions. I hadn't screamed, but was breathing heavily. I went back in for another and almost easily snagged it out. However, after that one, Volty stopped me from trying again, saying that 4 would suffice.
I shall accept your apology this time, Heidi. But don't forget to keep your promises and keep those sweet little lips of yours sealed shut.
I calmly nodded my head before violently coughing up the blood that was making its way to the back of my trap. Volty dismissively waved away his guest to leave before turning to face me, the two of us alone. He gave out a disappointed sigh as he said,
You are such a masochist. That, or an incredible fool. Do you really like being punished this much?
He knelt next to me and struck half at my face. I leered at him with such disdain burning in my eyes.
Don't give me that look, Heidi. And don't you dare blame me. You knew the rules and you disobeyed. I gave you plenty of chances, and you were the one who fought them. You have no one to blame but yourself.
Who pulled out a fag and lit it with a match before blowing a bit of smoke into my face and offering me a puff.
I'll have you taken care of in just a moment.
It hurt, but I still managed to get my lips around the cig and inhale. Ida, who, funny enough, was handpicked by Volty. I wonder if he truly did choose her to be my companion since we're close in age. Wonder even more if he realizes she's a Saphis. Was awakened to help take care of my profusely bleeding mouth, stuffing cloths nearly down the back of my throat to absorb the blood and press on my wounds. My Volty came in at one point and handed Ida my forsaken teeth, instructing her to quickly place them back into their correct spots. I swear to you, it felt like shortly after I was finished with treatment, my molars were once again attached to my gum. I truly do heal like him, don't I? Ida nearly screamed in horror when she initially saw me. She ran to my side and cried out to Volty.
What happened to her? Why is she like this?
He merely grumbled as he instructed.
Keep your voice down or you will wake the other residents. Besides, never ever speak to me in such a tone. Half-witted shit.
She bit her lip.
I'm sorry, Master. But what happened to Mistress Heidi?
I don't feel like telling you since you so rudely demanded of me the answer. Ask her yourself.
Ida took me to the water closet after that and sat me down to the treatment.
What happened to you, Mistress?
I stared at her with my exhausted eyes.
I'm sorry. That was foolish to ask given the state you're in. But I can't help but feel concerned for you. They did this to you, didn't they? The Graf? Your vetter?
I finally took a big gulp and answered. It was my fault. Do not waste time blaming or hurting them. It was all me.
But Mistress!
I like pain, Ida. Both receiving and giving. Don't waste your breath. I stroked her hair out of her face. You're too pretty to let yourself be stuck in a pit of disdain. It's an awful place to be, and I'm already filled with an overabundance of it. So let me feel it for you. Watch just a little more.
You're too kind for your own good.
Sleep in my bed tonight. She quickly became flushed, but quickly nodded her head after her initial freeze.
If that is what you want and need, I am here to serve you.
Ida's laying next to me. I still haven't fallen back asleep. Probably will not for the rest of the day.